A film festival that explores the lives of people with disabilities is back with a new lineup starting on March 26th. To tell us about the documentaries is the director of the ReelAbilities Film Festival, Bresnahan. Thank you very much for being with us, Mara.
Thank you for having me.
This is one festival that's really the offshoot of another. Tell me how it got started.
So the original ReelAbilities started in New York City, out of the JCC in Manhattan there, and it's an all disability themed film festival, and they started 11 years ago, and then they started offering basically other cities to host ReelAbilities film festivals. So almost now every major city has one in America, and then now they've branched out internationally. So Mexico City had their first one. And this is our 8th year in Boston.
Now, the title of this film festival, it signals right off, this is not about handicaps, this is about people who can do things.
Right, right. So it really is about, it's about celebrating all different kinds of abilities, and including those stories in the, trying to share those stories with a broader audience. And we bring in people who are connected to the disability community and who aren't.
Now, on the opening night, you have one film that explores a number of disabilities, but at the same time, it's from a different angle. Explain this.
So the opening night film, Far From the Tree, is based on the best-selling novel by the author Andrew Solomon, whose probably his most famous book is called The Noonday Demon, based on his battles with depression. And then this second novel he wrote was his story about coming out to his family, in which was an incredibly difficult experience for him, and he felt other in his family because of that. And he really wanted to explore other families who had children who they didn't identify, as sort of part of their tribe. Families who had children who were quote unquote different than they were because of the disability that they had. So the book itself profiles families who have children with Down syndrome, families who have children with who are little people but they are not little people, a deaf, a family who has a deaf child and the parents aren't deaf, and how they all coexist together basically. And it's a really beautiful story about families and relationships, and it's also sort of an unflinching look at how people coexist together, throughout these sort of like profound differences.
One of the things I like about the selections is that I looked at a number of them and saying, oh, I didn't know that. One of them is called Bottom Dollar. It is about people a lot of us see almost every week at least going to the supermarket. Tell us about that film.
So Bottom Dollar really covers sort of the disparity between what people with disabilities make in employment settings and versus people who are neurotypical is a word they use, and so and then also sort of covers this whole movement of closing sheltered workshops, because in the past people with intellectual disabilities or profound physical disabilities would be working in these environments where it was very exclusive, it was just them in this environment focusing on one task and making well below minimum wage, and so it really sort of it shines a light on the disparity between what these people are making, and it's completely unfair.
Plus, you're watching people. They're like the $15 an hour campaign. I mean, they want they want that kind of money because that's the dignity.
Right. And also, I mean, beyond the money, it's also having a sense of purpose. It's having something to get up and do every day. So it really is putting pressure on these corporations to hire people who identify with a disability and realize that they have a huge purpose to serve for these companies, and can make them better places to work for everybody. That movie I think can be a game changer.
This has been News, and we're talking with Mara Bresnahan from the ReelAbilities Film Festival. Mara, we've gotten used to using the term intellectually challenged. It's polite. A lot of the time we assume it means a big difference between most of us and a few of us, but there's a film here that sort of calls that into question, because they're saying, maybe that big difference is not so big.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really isn't, and I also think that there's there's room for a wide range of cognitive abilities in the world, and you can an experience doesn't have to be. Every exchange you have with someone can be slightly different, and it doesn't mean it's less impactful.
And you have one film about measures of intelligence, too, right?
Right. And that's really Intelligent Lives. That's our closing night film at the Museum of Science. And that's really fascinating because it goes it's like a brief history lesson in the lack of inclusion within the educational system for people with disabilities, people who have intellectual disabilities, and people who don't, because there's also sometimes people just immediately look at somebody in a wheelchair, somebody who has cerebral palsy, and assume that they have cognitive issues as well, and that isn't always the case. So there's some people who are not treated, who have like higher functioning intelligence, almost genius level, but people don't engage with them in that way because they make these pre-assumptions by just looking at them.
You also have a combination of people with disabilities and at the same time extraordinary abilities. There is a young woman playing basketball, struggling with mental illness.
Yes.
Talk about that.
Yeah. So Shamik Holdsclaw, this documentary is about her. It's at Mass General. And she was considered the female Michael Jordan of the WNBA, high profile athlete, and she basically came out about her struggles with bipolar disorder after she had some episodes that got her into the public eye, not in the best way, but then she sort of used that as a platform to speak about her mental health issues, and now she is a speaker all over the country. And mental health films are huge for us right now. People want to talk about it. It's a hot issue, and it's a conversation that needs to be brought into the light.
By the way, it occurs to me, as interesting as these films are, I don't see them getting the audience of Hollywood blockbusters. So what does that say about the purpose of holding a festival like this?
It's interesting because some of the, one of our films, the writer that's playing at Emerson College, actually got like a ton of buzz this year. So this being my 4th year running the festival, I have actually seen a shift in what people are willing to open up their minds to. So some of these films are like getting more high profile audiences. But I think in general, our goal is to shift the perspective of whoever is attending. If that needs to be shifted, or if not on subconscious or subconscious level, I think these movies are incredibly powerful. And then for all of them, we have a conversation after. And we like to bring people from the film, so then people can actually engage with these film subjects after the screening.
What's that like? Because you get people who don't normally come into the same room, right?
Right. So we have a really sort of like a wide variety in the audience. The Q&As can be different depending on who is up there on stage and the conversations that are happening. So I think the conversations in themselves are teaching moments for everyone. Yeah.
Well, we should mention, people want some more information, schedules, clips. So you've got a website with that, right?
Yeah, so it's ReelAbilities, ReelAbilities.org/Boston. And the whole lineup is there. And a big part of our festival is that all the screenings are free, which is kind of a rarity these days. So, yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, everything is free, and we work really hard to keep it that way.
Thank you very much for being with us. Mara Bresnahan.
Thank you.
From the ReelAbilities Film Festival. We'll have more news in just a moment.